Saratoga, California, the home of Saratoga and Prospect High School. To the public, they look the same, and they should be, but the difference is in the details. According to U.S. News, Saratoga students have an average 83% proficiency in math, science, and reading, contrasting to Prospect's student average of 53%. Why does this inequality exist in schools that are only 4 miles apart? One major disparity between the two schools is demographics. Prospect has a higher percentage of Black and Hispanic students compared to Saratoga. This difference brings up the main issue of educational inequality regarding race in California. So what exactly is racial inequality in education? Travis Bristol, an associate professor of education at UC Berkeley, explains more.
If we look at all of the Black, Latinx, Pacific Islander white students, Asian American students, Southeast Asian students, if I look at all those students the percentage of those students who enter in ninth grade, and then I want to look at and compare the numbers of people who enter to the people who graduate. And if there are any differences between the percentage of people who enter and the percentage of the people who graduate, that is an indication of educational inequality.
Educational inequalities in California public schooling have been driven by race for years, and the roots of it run deep in our system. And even though California has a history of being more diverse and equitable, its history is no different.
The foundation or the root of educational inequality in California is probably no different than what it is in the United States. That the country was founded on sort of centering whiteness and white people, and on creating a racial caste system where white people were on top, and individuals who were not white, right, were not.
It wasn't until 1954 that any legal changes were made to segregation in schooling, with the case of Brown v. Board of Education. The Supreme Court finally decided that separate but equal laws in America were no longer constitutional, outlawing any segregation of races in American schools. But this decision only barred de jure segregation or by law segregation. De facto segregation still exists in California, and it is not in written law, but is segregation through other means of separation, like school district funding.
The campuses like the University of California, who have greater budgets, larger funding budgets, are less diverse, right? Which is the same conversation we see in the K through 12 situation. That schools that tend to be more racially diverse usually have greater funding disparity. So we do see the same happening in higher ed.
The effects of segregated or unequal neighborhoods go beyond the classroom. In many education systems, funding for schools is often derived from local property taxes, which can result in significant disparities between affluent and low-income communities. Basic aid, which often includes local property tax revenue, can perpetuate these funding gaps. Affluent areas with higher property values may have more resources to fund schools, while economically disadvantaged areas struggle with limited resources. As shown in the graph, schools with higher minority percentage have a lower proficiency rate.
Segregated schools and segregated neighborhoods are overwhelmed by the challenges of students who live in neighborhoods where there's more pollution, more asthma, less access to healthy food, less access to early childhood care and after-school programs.
This difference in funding is again found locally with the comparison of income in neighboring communities. According to U.S. News, only 5% of Saratoga High School students are economically disadvantaged. However, Prospect is home to a striking 44% of students who face economic disadvantages. Despite these challenges, nonprofit programs like the Education Trust West are combating the inequalities that exist in our education systems around the country. Their goal is educational justice and closing the achievement and opportunity gap from preschool through college. Engaging in organizations like this one is a step forward in changing the narrative, policy, and practice. Check out their website, west.edtrust.org, to learn more about what you can do to combat this issue. As we celebrate the diversity that defines California, The journey towards racial equality in education begins with each one of us. Join the pursuit to empower communities and create a future where every education system uplifts every student regardless of their background. Only through collective action can we truly bridge the gap and build a brighter future for all.